What's up, everybody? How we doing out there? See if maybe that works a little bit better. Want to just pop in on everybody, see how you're doing this beautiful evening. As you can see, it is an absolutely stunningly gorgeous day here in the Wasatch, and I am so ready for spring. Yeah, I just want to do something here real quick. Let's just check this out for a second. The place is finally coming together, which is nice. Let's just open that up. Give you guys a little bit of a view of what's going on out there. Check that. There you go. This is the new office and studio with the full folding open front end, which I'm pretty super stoked about. This is where everything is going to be happening in the future, and it's getting really, really close to being done. And I'm pretty stoked about it. Just right here in the last little throes. We've got cabinets and all kinds of stuff coming along, and everything is supposed to get almost final by Monday. And then we get to do this. That's going to be really super fun. So, really looking at all this stuff, seeing all the snow melt and go away down here at the house is going to be, it's going to be go time on getting this place ready and, all the new turf put in and everything else. So that's cool. But hey, here's what I'm jumping in on. Just wanted to talk to you guys about a little bit. So tomorrow, you're going to see a notification come up. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to go ahead and put part 3 out of the aeration study videos. And that's going to be it. And I hope to not talk about it for a long time after that. So that's going to drop tomorrow morning around 8 o'clock. I'll put it on if anybody wants to join in and join the chat and be part of that. I'd love to have you get in there and hang out a little bit and talk, ask questions. I'll probably be on a half an hour earlier before the thing starts, but it'll be 8 a.m. here, so 10 a.m. Eastern is when that thing is going to drop. So, yeah, it's going to be fun to sort of finally get that piece done, and then move on to bigger and better things like actually working out in the yard. So one thing I did kind of want to show you, last year, well, let's see if I can put this in perspective for everybody who's kind of been around for a little while. So see where this truck is parked and where this tree is right here, this thing? This was where the fence line used to be that came up into the backyard. And the old shed, that little tiny plastic shed that I was constantly messing around with, was sitting right here where this door is. That's where that used to be, to kind of give you guys a perspective on how everything has gotten torn up. So from this point here, see if I can put my hand in the right spot, over here, there you go. From here all the way over, this was the whole lawn area before. And I'll show you what's left of it, because this was all grass. All of this was all grass all through here. And that's really all that was left of the original spot. Everything else kind of got shredded and torn apart. So this is it. This is all that exists of the last little piece. And right there was where the old swing set was. So you can see I kind of don't really have anything left here. And everything that's here, which is probably going to come out banging green in about 3 or 4 weeks, shockingly, it's all going to get buried. I've got a whole like 2 feet of fill going in here. I just want to introduce you to this now so that everybody gets a perspective here. All of this will be turning into grass. Every single thing up here that you see. So a lot of this fill and all this kind of stuff is coming down here. Going to come in to level this stuff out. And where I'm standing right now, in this area here, this rock wall is going away. This whole thing is going away. This will all be a big putting green with bent grass. So I've already got the plans on that, and that's going to be pretty fun to put together. So we'll be building a specced out green right here this year, maintaining that with the John Deere, and keeping it ultra low, using it for playability. And then I hope to never use a real mower on the rest of the lawn ever again. Like that's it. I'm done with it. That's going to be all that goes to. So that'll be fun. But anyway, I'm actually finally able to see what's happening here because it's been buried under snow, and you can tell it's kind of a mud pit around here right now. But there's the new office and studio, all of that stuff in there. It's all set up to take in this whole hillside. So it's actually really come together pretty well. So I'm kind of excited about it. So anyway, since we're hanging out right now, it's Saturday evening. If y'all have any questions you want to throw at me, I haven't really been reading any of the comments that have come through because I was kind of out in the sun. It was hard to see. It's old-fashioned time. Be more than happy to take some of those if you guys have some stuff. Or otherwise, we can sit and chat tomorrow morning if that works better for everybody. What do you got? Ah, yes. So this spot, just so everybody's aware, I had this hill, this massive hill in the backyard, and this was all sagebrush and stuff like that. Jameson, I can answer that question for you here real quick. But this wall behind me, this is in the earth up to about 8 feet. So that's the slope of what the hill was here. It was about 8 feet from there and cut down across here. So it's we're pretty deep into the side of the hill with this place. So the three things I just saw come up. Somebody asked if there's any professional companies using our products in Salt Lake City. Yes, there are about a dozen, and I can give you a list depending on where you are in the valley. If you want to tell me exactly where you are, I can tell you who can help you with that. The rocks, a good majority of the rocks are going to get buried and put into some tiers on the back. So that's going to go up on the backside. A good majority of this is going to go back underground. I'm actually going to bring a ton of fill in here to get it up to the level to where it needs to be, and a bunch of topsoil from some other digs that are going on just around the corner. So there's going to be a significant amount of soil that has to move in here. So that's the rocks are getting buried. For the putting green here, this is all going to be bent grass. I have a grower that is doing everything on sand, and I can actually pull in pretty much ready play bent grass that's going to go out there, and that's what's going to be cut. So the rest of the lawn is going to be a combo of bluegrass and ryegrass this year. So Jameson, you're in Riverton, so you're yes. Okay, so Holmes Property Maintenance, Holmes Lawn and Pest, you can give them a call. They're in Midvale, around 80th South. You can give them a call. So, feel free to check in on them. Bob, how would you lower a pH of 7.5, and what would your target be? So, I'm going to tell you right now that I grow here in a pH of 7.8 with no trouble whatsoever. For the most part, you would want to start with about 5 pounds per thousand of elemental sulfur to start bringing it down. You don't want to put more than 10 out in the course of a year, and that would be about the number you would max out on. And depending on what your soil type is, you could get a recommendation anywhere between 5 and up to 12 or 13 pounds. It just depends on your soil type. So it's best to start light. As you acidify, it goes. The sulfur has a harder time breaking down as it gets closer and closer to neutral. So it takes a little bit longer. So start with 5 pounds and retest and go from there. So I saw somebody ask about compaction cure. Is it clay for your sulfur? You're definitely going to probably need about 10 pounds to get that to move. Okay. This is a great question. Justin had one on here. Aerate study. When they used aerate mechanical, how much water was used to water in the aerate app? The plot's got 1.5 inches of water a week. It was set up just as if you would monitor and maintain turf no matter what. So it got 1.5 inches of water, and immediately following the application, it wasn't watered in. It was put through a backpack sprayer at a rate of that the gallons were a little less than a gallon per 1,000 square feet was what the breakdown was. So not a whole lot of material was put out. Okay. So it'll be interesting. Let's see if I can jump back up here. Okay, Longenier, I am going to test it. I'm going to test it to start, but let me just try to show you something here real quick and see if maybe you can get a perspective. Back here on the hill, way back here behind me, so a lot of this mountainside is pretty similar, but there's good ridges of topsoil back here, and there's a significant amount of homes going in on that side. So I'm going to pull some in. We are going to screen it, and it's just something that we'll have to test and see how it starts. But I have a pretty good idea on what it's going to look like. So let me see here. Pursuit of growth. Went from a pH 6.1 to a 7.1 on strictly GCF program. Is there any specific product I should chill on? Question. What type of test is that you took? Was that one of the MySoil tests, or was that something else, or were they two different ones? Because you are going to get a different reading depending on what type of test you took. One is going to measure pH sort of as a root zone, and it typically is going to see a little bit more acid. And then if you did it sometimes doing a different type of test, you're going to get more of an alkaline reading. It just depends on the type of test that was actually taken when you take a look at those types of readings. So my soil, waiting on Penn State Ag to confirm. So, my soil. Okay, so we can talk a little bit about that for an instance. It's like if you had a chance to listen to Brendan and the guys from My Soil talk about it on the podcast, that is something that they talk about is your pH reading that they're going to give you is going to probably be different than what's in the soil because of the way that they're doing testing with the resins. So it's going to read a little bit different from site to site. Now, again, it sort of is just depending on the test and that more than anything else. What we see an awful lot of the time is major changes in pH can happen just in irrigation and over the course of the season. So it's something to kind of take a look at as well. But that's just something to take a look at and see if it was just a different kind of test. Let's see. Let's keep going and see what I got here. Okay to put down gypsum in summer or only during cool months? You can put it down pretty much any time. That would be just fine. Microgreen bottle is empty and dries out. Do you think you could go back in suspension if I dump the residues into a rain barrel? Yes, you could. Absolutely. You can absolutely do that. Thank you, Cooter. Appreciate it. Awesome. Appreciate it. Cole, you can always go back and take a look at what we've been talking about, but there's some really good questions here coming out. Jay, good to see you. Hope things are well. So, yeah, I definitely, there's a couple of things I could talk about. You might hear this coming up on some upcoming videos and some different things. But one thing I should just sort of point out about like the MySoil tests, just so you guys get a little bit of a better understanding on how those work. It is a resin test. It is testing sort of immediately what the root can take up. It's a little bit different. It's sort of a snapshot of what's happening for nutrients to pass through and connect to the root. And if you look at the tests, you can see that it's based on a very short period of time. So for instance, the recommendations for parts per million are typically on a level that will only get you through one feeding. So that's how you have to look at those tests, is it's sort of a short version, but you can extrapolate that out over the course of the season and get pretty dang close as to what a normal, like just a standard lab soil test would look like. So you just have to know what you're looking for as far as the way the ppms are, and then how those are all going to come together and flow for you and make your plans off of that. So if you were to take some of the readings that you get on those MySoil tests, you can be pretty easily you can pretty easily put together what you need to feed just right away in order to balance that stuff out. So that's that. Cole, I'll check in on that for you. I talked to him today. Man, Lazy Lawns, I used to live in a place where there was a bike trail called Star Wars. And it was in Santa Cruz where all the redwood trees were, where it just looked like the Forest of Endor. So that's something, Forest Moon of Endor. Good pH for Bermuda, waiting on a soil test. And I think that's my issue. Starts off really green and then it doesn't stay hardly. So I want to touch on that really quick. So depending on your soil, and this is so much going to depend on your soil. We want to check pH and see how things are going. Bermuda does well in lower pH, but you'll see that kind of range anywhere between, say, optimal of 6 to 6.5, something like that. That's something that you're going to want to pay attention to, but also what your soil consistency is, because if your color is dumping, um, you may just need to switch your feeding so that you're feeding less material more often, because it's just flushing out too quickly. So that might be what's happening for you, and you're just going to need to maybe just adjust the style a little bit. So that's something. Mm, yeah. Well, let's see. Okay, Mr. O'Malley. I'd like to try to read this like I think you talk, and I just don't know if I can do it, because I love the way that you sound like a pirate when you type. Me analysis stated low N and K and boron. What's safe for a rookie? Threw down some carbon X in the fall. Kieran. Haha. All right. I'm sorry. I feel like Kieran's a pirate. So again, I don't know if you're talking about doing a my soil test or not. As far as boron goes, sort of the maximum ideal rate on that is like 2 pounds to the acre. It's very, very minimal. So you'd want to work back off of that. I think the material borax is somewhere between 11 and 17% boron. I did sound Irish. How come everything I do sounds like a leprechaun? Name that movie. Um, so if you did a my soil test, you can look at the parts per million and see what it says on there, and you can adjust your poundage on what you need to put down. And probably if you're super low, you're going to be putting down at least a pound to get started. So there it is, Bob. One of my favorite movies of all time. Everything I do sounds like a leprechaun. Get out of my car and into my dreams. All right, Bermuda is green and starting to thrive in Atlanta. Noticed torpedo grass after I scalped a few weeks ago. Should I treat it? Or with the Bermuda treated? You know what? The torpedo grass is going to try to come out. It's going to keep trying to come through. You should probably try to smoke it while you can. I would treat that if it's up. Put down in anytime after aerate and RGS app at 9 ounces a day, 1,000 square feet. Wait, what? Put down in anytime, you'll be fine with that. Let's keep going here. Can I mix T-Nex, Tenacity, RGS, Microgreen, and backpack and sprayer? I don't know if I would do that personally. I think you're better to go in stages. What I would probably do, that I think is actually one of the best ways to do that, is actually do your RGS and Microgreen first, and then come over the top of it with the other. That's actually what I would do. Do you believe in prodiamine split app? Do I believe in it? For a lot of my pro guys out here, they're actually doing split app where they're doing prodiamine now, and they're going to come back with dithiopyr afterwards. So they are splitting it out that way, just kind of doing two different things this year for crabgrass. Let's see. I usually put down a pound of N of granular urea. If I switch to 18:1, how much would I get annually to get the same results? Okay, urea is its own animal. Urea release super, super fast. With that material, a pound doesn't really last you more than, say, 28 days. It's a super fast flush. It's going to move really, really quickly through the soil. If you're trying to go pound for pound, you're not going to really get there. So, I would look at your 1801 applications at standard app rate or a quarter pound per time. The pros that have stayed just specifically on that product and used it consistently run it at just a slightly higher rate than that, at about 0.3, and they would put down between 5 and 6 apps a year to have their lawns look great. Now, I know there's quite a few homeowners that do that, especially people that I know personally. They'll run that app and they'll just do it over and over again, and that's all they run. They don't put anything else out with it. That's the only material they're putting out. So, it works well for that. Let's see. Whatever is low maintenance mon. C extra versus. Okay, let me see if I can get down some of this here. C extra versus Seek. Now, I don't know enough about C extra. You'd have to take a look at what the total extract volume is in that material to do a true comparison between the two. One thing I know about the Seek that I can't say about the C extra because I don't really know is that the cytokinin count is really super high in the Seek. That's one of the things that makes it pretty unique. So that's something to sort of keep in mind as well. Let's see here. Hold on, I'm trying to catch up. Okay. I'm going to Sammy Yard again. I love it when people say me. Plan to bury it. Can I go too far? You can go too far. Let's talk about sand leveling here for a second for anybody who's doing that, that I want to just give a couple words of caution on. Um, it's better to go at kind of lower amounts at a time and not go crazy with it. So if you're taking grass that's a couple inches high and you're burying it, a lot of that's going to get flattened down and it's not going to come up quite like you want it. If you can keep that leveling to like half inch, kind of in that range, that's better. But one thing to pay attention to is if you get too much down, you're going to get a hell of a lot of heat. And if you're trying to get your grass to grow up, it's not going to like that very much. So I can tell you from the area that I did this last year, it took a long time to get filled back in. And mainly it was just because of the heat coming down on it. And I've gone to some of these other guys who have put out lots of videos on sand leveling. And I can tell you that for the most part, the grass isn't as thick as it should be. It looks pretty good when you kind of look at it and look across it, but it's not really as thick and it has a harder time in that sand with just the heat. So if you're going to do it, I would make sure that you get kind of a balance of like add some peat moss, add some other things to it, and don't go too deep on your first shot. Golf greens are a different animal, but they're not going to bury it under an inch. They're going to go across it with a ton of sand and they're going to sweep it until they can see all the turf again. So you don't really see it the same way. When you're doing it on a home lawn, I would just watch it a little bit and understand that not only is the heat going to be an issue, but the drainage on that top is going to be a little bit different as well. And so while your grass is resetting, it's going to have a lot harder time, getting back to its former glory. I can tell you that for sure. So let's see. Who makes these sliding glass doors? This is a company called Solar Innovations. They're out of Pennsylvania that made these doors, and they were a pain in the ass to put in. So battery-powered Sunjoe reel mower, you should try it. I don't know. I have some other plans. Scout my Bermuda 3/4 of an inch, and next Thursday our low temperature is supposed to be 32. It'll probably be okay. Likely your soil temperatures are okay. If you were scalping it, that's fine. When it's that low, if you do have any frost damage, don't worry about it. Start feeding it and just get it going. That's going to be the best thing that you can do. Low iron levels in my soil. Is there a problem if I spray foliar rats in 002 and 700 throughout the year? No, Weekend Warrior, that's not a problem. It depends on how low they're going to be and if you think you might need to do a larger correction than just what's available foliar. So you can do that. Oh, Michael, that's a great question. So he asked right here, Micah, if you had a limited budget, would you go with Humic 12 or RGS? I would go with RGS. I would go with RGS because of the plant benefit that you're going to get out of it and the balance between the humic, fulvic, and kelp. I would absolutely go for that every time. In fact, I will be removing a heat warning that was on that label. I'm going to be taking that off of there after enough time. One thing that I was concerned about back in the day was people were going to be applying it when it was super, super hot, and they were going to put undue stress because of the cytokinins and auxins that are in the kelp. Based on the application rates and the amount that people are putting out, I don't have that concern at all. And one of the things we did last summer in the air raid trial is we did run RGS on 4 applications through the middle of the summer as well, just to see if I was going to be okay with doing that. So that will be happening as well. Let's see. Okay, Bob, forgotten to bypass my water softener. How much will salt material added to the water affect the soluble salt levels? It's strictly volume. So, I mean, you kind of have to think about it like this. When you take a test for parts per million, let's say that you had, look at your soil test and see what the salts say right now. Okay, so let's say it's, I don't know, 20 parts per million. Pick a number. There's going to be 40 pounds of salt over the course of an acre. I haven't done enough to say that there's a major impact, but there's got to be something. For the most part, if you have hard water, you've got a lot of calcium in there as well. And so you're going to have not only maybe some salt buildup, but you're going to have calcium buildup as well. And I did read this really cool article by a turf professor about how irrigation is providing almost 3 times as much calcium as a plant can take up for most people who are watering. They're getting such a load of calcium through the course of the year because of the volume of water that's going out. and it's not really taken into account all that often. So that's just something to kind of think about for all you guys who maybe get worried about calcium levels or putting calcium out or things like that. Best advice for, I think, San Francisco coastal location, mild winters and summers, GCS liquid full time, 12-month apps. Louis, when I lived there, I was actually in Santa Cruz. I pretty much stopped applying when rain season would start, which was usually right around Halloween. And then I could let it roll until about February. So there was about maybe a 3-month break where I wouldn't put anything down just because there's so much water coming from the sky and the ground is super duper porous. So I wouldn't do it. Mark, that's a great question. And you know what? Actually, I do think they are worth the money. I think that that's something that you could definitely add in. Um, if you can get a good one that can have some good lasting power in the soil. If you take a look at like the re-wetting, and do a little search on that, you're going to find some pretty interesting stuff about how wetting agents can really help. As far as the ground to re-wet if you have sort of porous soil. So that's something you can kind of dive into. It's pretty cool. Uh, let's see here. I gotta go back up. Sorry. How long does humic take to actually change my soil biology? Just put my first app down. Again, that's sort of a tricky question. So you're going to start shifting things around in the soil first. There is going to be some chelation that happens. There are going to be some chemical reactions that happen. And depending on how much you are sitting there looking down at your soil every year, you can physically see a change in the soil in the first season if you are religious about your applications. Now, soil biology is affected by a lot of different things. Soil biology gets really excited when you fertilize. The greatest amount of carbon efflux happens when you put nitrogen out. It's when microbes really start to go wild and crazy. So if you're feeding properly, plus you're giving a little bit of an extra home for microbes to kind of seat in there, then you're going to see changes. How measurable is that? Depends on how much money you want to spend. So you can kind of take that however you want to take it. Let's just see here. I'm trying to get back up here. Silver maples are draining my grass. 111-inch circumference. Best way to treat the trees and grass to combat. So one thing that we used to do, and we still recommend this to a lot of people, and if there's anybody that's on the chat right now that I had do this, you can speak up. But in the professional service, what we always did when there was issues with like big trees on grass is we would treat those trees really heavy with about 1 ounce per caliper inch every 2 weeks for about 4 applications with our 402. So we would hit that, and then the tree would start to sort of change how it was functioning, and it didn't seem to take as much out of the turf. And then the turf would respond in a different way. So when everything's sort of transferring through the tree, there's stuff that's getting pushed out through the roots of the tree as well. And in a way, it can give like a deeper feeding to the turf, and everything kind of starts to work sort of harmoniously, and you'll see everything kind of balance out if you do that. So yeah, that's something to take a look at. Okay, well, let's see. I heard moss. Somebody was talking about moss. And a bunch of people mentioned 700, and I want to just state this real quick. You're probably going to see some information coming out about that before too long from maybe 1 or 2 people in the community. 700 is not labeled as any sort of algicide or with the intent of killing moss. However, there's a dog, and I don't know this one. However, ferrous sulfate is known to kill moss, and depending on the rate at which you put it out, it will probably have an effect on that moss. And you can put it in a backpack sprayer and put it down on your lawn at the normal rates, and you may see something happen. But just as you need to know, that is not labeled as any sort of herbicide or algicide, just so you know. Okay, so I have to state that. It's very important. Let's see. Seek monthly at 1/2 ounce per 1,000. No, you can go ahead and do that. Just make sure that you're, watering properly and do it. You'll be fine. What you'll find is, depending on the type of grass you have, if you have warm season grass, you'll probably see more of an effect out of that. If you have cool season grass, you have 2 times where your grass is really pushing the hardest, and that's going to be starting pretty much now. And then that's going to go until it starts to heat up once temperatures in daytime start to get around like 82 to 85 degrees. Cool season grass really slows down. Now you don't really want to push it too hard, so you could back off of it and then come back to it, as you get closer to the fall, because that's where the second hump is for getting stuff out. All right. Yeah, you were supposed to do that. Come on, Derek. Let's see. Somebody asked me about, are there any upcoming collaborations? And that was way back in there. I didn't answer that. So likely, yes. There are some things that we will be doing coming up that I've talked to a few people in the community about that I'm pretty excited about. And we will do a few things like that and, just have some more lawn adventures. I think we're going to have a good time. One of the biggest will be on this place. I'm just going to tell you that right now. That'll be a fun collaboration. What is the main reason to add carbon to your soil? Is it to provide microscopic space for microbes and feed? Yes. Whose dog is that? I've never seen that dog before. I don't know whose dog that was. But yes, adding carbon to the soil can do kind of a number of things. It is a natural cycle that happens as plants die. Burning crops has been something that kind of helps to keep soil loose. It does work a little bit like a sponge, helps hold moisture, helps to be sort of a colonizing place for bacteria. So it does have a lot of benefit. What we find a lot of the time is by just doing sort of standard fertilization practices, you can have a little bit of a stripping of the natural materials in the ground. And that's why it kind of helps to just keep that as an additive to sort of add carbon in and have it just be part. It's not an essential plant nutrient that way. Plants are made of carbon dioxide forming themselves, right? Like that's how they come into existence. So, it's not like it's an essential plant nutrient. It's what everything is going to decay back into, and getting it into a state where it's already sort of in that porous form is really super beneficial. Let's see. All right, I got to go back up here. Go up. pH has been running anywhere from 5.1 to 5.4. I have been putting down 50 pounds 1,000 twice per season for 3 years and doesn't seem to be budging the pH. Any suggestions? It just may not be enough. If you were to take a soil test from Spectrum or from Ward or something like that, you may find out that your rate has to be 120, 150, 180 pounds in the course of a season, when you would need to put that down at like 25 to 50 pounds at a time every 3 to 4 weeks, and you just do that, and that might be just all you have to do. Sounds like you're at a level where you're just maintaining it. It might be cracking it up a little bit through the course of the season, but it's dropping back down. So it may just take a much larger hit. And I would recommend you get a liming recommendation from one of the labs. That's going to be a big thing. All right. Let's see. Okay, moving on. Sunjo 2 weeks ago and hit with RGS and air raid south approaching 55. How long should I wait to hit it with micros and humic? You don't need to hit micros right away. You might as well wait until it warms up a little bit. You can hit humic anytime. When is my grass growing down? Asked Jason. I hope as soon as possible. We're trying to plan that with the weather here plus heavy equipment. I've got to build somewhere around, almost 300 feet of rock retaining walls. So we have to do that first, and I can't have it be muddy. So that's something to take a look at. All right. Someone asked, can RGS combat root pruning effect of preem? I've never really taken a look at that. To be honest with you, there's only a couple of times where I even see the conversation of root pruning come up. Like my guys in Florida watch out for that when they're putting out dimension more than anything else. And it's a mild effect. Even if they don't do anything to it, it can injure the turf for a short time, but they just start feeding and the grass resets and it goes. So yes, it can have an effect, but I've never really done anything to look at, do we need to have any sort of interference? It's just something that happens, and you should pay attention to it. All right, hold on. Let me go back up here. Another Utah trip. I think there's going to be some of that coming around for some people. I'm pretty certain. Northwest Indiana, large property and lots of issues. I'm open. Hey, somebody go up there, get something. Thank you, blind guy. Good question about root pruning. So hopefully that helps. Do you have any personal business goals for the year? Okay, Rob, thank you for asking that. Thank you for asking a business question. That's pretty awesome. To give all you guys a heads up, this year has already been absolutely insane, and I just want to thank all of you for it. In the last week since releasing the first Air 8 video, I think we have sold more of that stuff than, well, definitely any other week, and it's been out the door like crazy. People in my plant are exhausted. They were all in there today trying to get prepped for Monday and everything that's going to be shipping out of there. It is absolutely insane. So I guess my goal for 2021 or whatever year we're in now is to be better prepared for 2022. That's the best way I can put it. So it's going to be insane. Frisco, go ahead and use it. It'll be fine. Shake well and use it. What's up, Mark? Good to see you. Glad you're here. Does RGS still seem to resolve dollar spot as a pre-emergent app? I don't know. I don't know that I've ever, I don't know about that. Oh, post-emergent app. I don't know. Dollar spot's typically because of lack of nitrogen. So I don't know that, there are definitely some, there are some recovery things that happen with RGS when applied to things like brown patch. You get kind of a better recovery, but it's not a fungicide, and it can kind of hold it back a little bit. So that could be something. Maybe that's what you were referring to. Is there such a thing as having too much of an OM content? Yes. Too high? Yes, there is such a thing as that. But let's be very specific about what that means here, because I heard somebody talk about something and it kind of threw me sideways, and I thought it was ridiculous. I had a person that I heard talking about organic matter and freely interchanging that with thatch. Those are two totally different things. Organic matter is in the soil. Thatch is on top of the soil, really. It's not in the soil, and that is not organic matter. That is thatch. It's two totally different things. So, for turf, if you look on a soil test, there's kind of varying degrees on all of this, but 5% is really getting up there. 6% is about the max you would ever want to be. If people target somewhere around like 3.5 to 4.5, they're going to be pretty happy with the way things are. Once you get above 6%, it starts to get pretty squishy. So those are things to look out for, like holding too much moisture in the organic matter. You can do that. One thing that can happen is you build up a significant amount of organic matter is you really have to change how you're feeding it. It's not going to require as much nitrogen, and you're just going to have to watch it. You basically start to create this sort of muck soil, and if you don't know what that looks like, look it up. I think you'll like that. So let me go back up here. Hope that answered your question, Sean. Awesome. Thanks, Lawn Father. Appreciate it. Yearly max of liquid iron application. Mostly Green County Fur products have iron, and wonder if too much would damage KGB turf. Too much at a time can definitely damage it. Watch out how much you put out in a single application. I know that I just saw Justin pop in here. He is one of the major proponents of putting down iron, and he loves that stuff, and that's great. You can definitely turn your grass black, and if you go too high, you can absolutely stun its growth in one application. If it were me, I would do lower apps more often. And, if you do that, like, it doesn't last long, especially when the grass is growing fast. Iron is foliar and it's going to move through as you mow it out. So you get the longest green effect in the summertime. Summertime is when you're going to get the biggest greening effect. So, I would kind of wait to do it until then. So as long as your nitrogen levels are right and you're feeding it proper, and you do that in combination with your iron, and those two have kind of a good ratio together, you're going to get just a huge boost out of your iron. So hopefully that answers your question. Ordered Charles Walter's book about weeds. Looking forward to comparing the weeds in the soil test and following the trail. Bob, you're going to enjoy that. It's pretty trippy. Um, so Andy asked me a question about new products coming to DIY. Uh, the reason I don't want to mention what they are yet is because they're not put into bottles yet. And what usually happens is when I happen to drop information about something coming out, all y'all people out there start bombarding certain individuals who sell the stuff, and they're not ready for it yet. So I'm not going to say what it is. Not going to say what it is. But you guys just be paying attention over the next little bit because you'll be pretty happy about it. Let's see. Ben, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Lawn to learn, what's my favorite turf type? That is a great question. I'm going to tell you this right now. If I lived down south, if I had a house in Florida, I would put down zoysia. I would have zoysia down there, and that's what I would run with. So around here, I like the combination of having both bluegrass mainly. I like to mainly have bluegrass, but this year I'm going to go 50-50 and put rye in with it as well to sort of change the overall color, texture, and, you know, see if I like how that goes because I think it's soft and it's beautiful and it works really well. So that's what I'm going to be doing this year. All right, let's see. Oh, you guys want to see the sunset? All right, hold on one second. There you go. Dropping down over the mountains right there. It's going away. Let's see. Let me go back here. Any plans to grow out the beard? If you hit a certain goal, I'm going to grow the beard for a little while, actually. I decided that since I cut my hair down, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let the beard grow back for a little while. So that's going to be the next fun project. Maybe until I have to mow the lawn in the back. That would be pretty fun. It's just to let it grow until I have to mow for the first time. Lawn creeps? Al, you hear me. Let's see. Very high levels of phos and calcium in soil. How to bring it down? It just has to be used up. Depending on what your ratio is of calcium and magnesium and potassium in the soil, if you begin to load up, just it depends on the ratios. That's a hard question to answer. But oftentimes, if you have super high calcium, you have low potassium, and you should start bringing the potassium up in order to have a balance. Okay. Extension wand quote from Greener Lawn today. Oh, I don't know. Let's see. Hold on. Zoysia, yes. Doc, what alcohol am I drinking? This is a little bit of a straight bourbon. I made myself a little old fashioned. It's a good night for an old fashioned. All right, let's keep going. You know what grass seed would you recommend for Philly suburbs, Northeast PA? A good majority of people, Lewis up there, are running tall fescue. Works really well. Why did you go with Zoysia if you were in Florida? I'll tell you why, Ben. I like that grass is usable. That's what I like about it. I grew up on St. Augustine. I mowed it a ton. I like the flexibility of what you can do with the length of Zoysia, and I just like how it feels underfoot. It's one of my favorites. So in all the years in the turf that we've taken care of in Florida, it has always been my favorite. So that's that is something that I really like. Did I miss something? I saw something about workarounds, and I'm not really sure what that was. Maybe I missed it. Sorry. I didn't catch that. Okay, let's see if I can get a couple more of this. What's the lead time on your sample analysis? So it's been taking me about a week or so. I sent a whole ton of them out. Over, let's see, Friday. There should have been about 15 or 20 that went to people. So, yes, it's typically taking about a week. It's not 3 days because I'm getting pounded with those. It's really ridiculous. Okay, let's see. Let's see here. Tony, good to see you. Does humic 12 help get rid of wild onions? Funny thing about that, no, technically no, but I can tell you that the populations of wild onions have gone way down where we had them at our shop in Georgia, but we put a significant amount of material out into our field, so I don't know that really counts. Let's see here. No, Jesus, Whisperer, come on. Marshall, good. Okay, I'll check that here when we're done. Okay, so Louis, what I'm probably going to do here, so I'm going to get my midnight bluegrass again, and then I'm actually going to overseed it with RPR, is what I'm going to do up here. And I have a feeling it's going to be crazy thick. I'm just going beyond that 80-20 mix And I really want to try to get it to 50-50, but I'm going to tell you guys my concern. I thought about growing in this entire place this year and taking it all from seed, and I just don't think I'm going to be able to do it. And that's mainly because of the drought. So I, I'm going to turf most of this year because it's going to have to get established quickly. I mean, our snowpack is at like 80%. So that's what's happening there. Jacob, no, I am not. Have not since May of 2018, 19? May of 2019. So that's all I really know. Yeah, John, you are right. There are workarounds for that. And a lot of the time it just depends on what the soil type is. There's just going to be general lab recommendations where oftentimes 10 pounds is about the max that you're going to want to put out, just because of what the decay rate is. And I know people do put out more than that, but oftentimes it almost stacks on top of each other and then it doesn't break down like it's supposed to. So that's really the reason, that's typically recommended. So thoughts on Ryan's and Matt's? I don't really know. I would imagine that they're probably going to be pretty good. I would guess. So I would say that's all I can really say about it. I don't know if they're in existence or not. I don't really know that. I know there was an announcement about it. And I think that when you can sort of dive down and see what people are asking for and provide products that the community is asking for, I always think that's a good thing. So, that's something to take a look at. Let's see here. What else? Any tips on shrub recovery for freeze damage? Man, yeah. You're probably going to have to start feeding them. You might have to trim them back and see what's happening. You're going to have to see how much dead matter's in them and trim them away. So that's something I would probably do. Let's see. Best variety of cool season grass for heat in St. Louis. You're probably still going to be in that same thing. Tall fescue is going to be pretty common up there. Let's go. Jacob, it's whatever anybody wants to do, that's fine. We used to work together, and I would say that we had a great working relationship, and then it just changed. So there's nothing really to say about it. But if anybody feels like that, it's their prerogative. Nothing to be done about it. Okay, so don't worry about it. Don't stress out about it. So that's going to be just fine. Do I ever underestimate the responses from the DIY community? Yes, absolutely. I do, for sure. I absolutely do that. What else do we got here? See you, Ben. Thanks for stopping in. Had a couple soil tests done and my calcium and pH levels were high. Everything else is low. Yeah, probably your pH is high as well, likely. And probably your potassium levels are low, and those are going to have to be corrected. Can you grow bluegrass lawn in the Dallas area? Not really. No, don't. I mean, I wouldn't. I don't know if I would even give that a shot. I think that you're going to have some issues. I was trying to think about how far south I've seen it grown successfully. I know there were some guys doing it in North Carolina that's done pretty well. South Carolina, I'm not really sure about, but you're getting south of the transition zone. So, maybe you could have it as a novelty, but it's going to have a hard time. So I would, you could do it if you wanted to try. You just have to get it in the ground early and get it established, and you probably have to water the snot out of it. I do love playing with fire, and I love burning things down. It's fine. So, yeah, if you have a completely dormant Bermuda lawn, you could probably smoke it, but be careful. All right, what else you got? I've been on here a lot longer. You guys are asking some great questions tonight. Thanks for the turnout, by the way. It's significant. I like that. I'm just going to remind everybody, tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock my time, 10 o'clock Eastern, we're going to have we'll have the final video up for the aerate stuff. Scale up production long term? Yes, I am planning on scaling up production long term, and maybe I can't answer that bottom part, but there's a maybe, and I would say that there were conversations happening about that today, but I'm gonna end it with that. Okay. Back section, 2,000 square feet, 20 to 30% poetry of recommendations. Smoke it. Man, if you can, go ahead and get rid of it. That would be something to do quick, very quick. Let's see, what else? Gosh, why do I keep pushing that button? Anything on new hose and sprayers? So, Todd, yes. I want to say this, plastic has been a major issue this year. I don't know about anybody else who's been dealing with supply line issues for things, but that is a major thing this year. So plastic has gone up. It's harder to get. Um, we know what we have coming in. We also are putting in more and more equipment at the plant, and you guys will be seeing that in video here in about hopefully 6 weeks. 6 weeks, we'll be down there, and I'll be showing that, showing all of that stuff off because you guys are going to get a trip out of that. What else we got? Ortho hose and sucks along with the rest. Please make one. You know what? Actually, we don't need to make one. What we did is we, grabbed a whole bunch from manufacturers that are just the standard quart hose end sprayers, and those work really well. And we like the ones with a 30-to-1 dilution because it just pulls everything out. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm going to test this first, but let's just do a spoiler on the video. I've got a couple orthos in the back of my truck that I picked up the other day. I'm going to take one apart, and I'm going to spray it upside down without any hose in it and see what that does, and just basically hold upside down like a reverse cup gun so it's not pulling up from the bottom. I'm going to flip it over and let everything come down from the top and see if it sprays any better. And I'm going to put all sorts of crap through it and just see if that works. So that's something. Let's see. Hold on. Merlot Shiraz. You know what? Actually, I love Amarone. If you haven't done that yet, I'm an Amarone person, and also Malbecs. Malbecs and Amarone. Give me that deep plum is really the way I like it. Hold on. Let's take a look here. Jason, as far as offering a branded Green County fertilizer product, I can speak to that like this. I don't want to say never is the answer. I don't want to say that. But, one thing that we do for professionals is we actually find local blenders for people. And, we can put material out, to professionals that way, and we'll quote it and have, larger companies who need granular, we can get that for them that way. But I don't really like the idea of having a single location for granular. I think that doesn't really work well, because shipping costs are astronomical. And so from the business standpoint, I just don't see it being super viable to have one location that is putting together a granular and sending it out. That it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So in the short term, I can say no, we're probably not going to do that. I had ideas for a granular years and years and years ago, and was about to buy a building to do it, and I just decided not to. So that's really kind of how I would treat that. Using hose and sprayer since the products came out. Yeah, I mean, it works fine. Some of them are crappy and some of them aren't. Who is my favorite YouTuber? Probably Aussie Man. I like Aussie Man reviews. He always makes me laugh. So I know you're probably not talking about that, but that's my favorite. What other hobbies do you have aside from lawn care? Music, number one. Not number one, actually. My children are number one. What can I say? But music is a big hobby of mine, and I just like to read and I like to be creative. So I mean, that's more what I like to do. Tony, quite oftentimes the recommendation's 5 pounds 2 times a year is sort of the max, but you can do lower amounts more often. New to spraying post-emergent, using tenacity. Is there anything else I should try instead? A little nervous to spray and pray. It depends on the target weeds you're going after. Tenacity works pretty well, but it's slow and you have to do a follow-up application. It is probably one of the simplest. That's why it's so popular, mainly amongst DIYers. I don't see a ton of companies using it. They tend to go more for target pests locally to the area. So that's really all I know about, as far as that goes. I would just see what you're trying to go after for target, and adjust your material that way. Let's see, what else? Okay, shaving backpack sprayer. Yeah, I should probably get one. Okay, good. Like this. Will gypsum lower pH? No, it is more of a neutral item, but it will help bring up calcium if you need it in higher pH soils, which is nice, but it's kind of more like a neutralizer item. So if you need the combination of sulfur and of gypsum, that's a good way, or of calcium and gypsum, that's a good. Man, now I'm losing my train of thought. There goes the sun, by the way. RGS and humic on a vegetable garden, sure, but the 402 is fantastic. Michael, I love my Petra sprayer. It's the big one. It's that 6.5 gallon one. It works great. I have never had an issue with it. Gray Fox, I've actually seen guys who have done coal. That is something that has been done. Charcoal, even briquettes, things like that, stuff that's been burned out, pretty much any ash that they can put down. I have seen that done. You can actually do some, just do some quick lookups and you'll find it. Water soluble GCF products. I actually put together a bunch of those about a decade ago. And there were a couple of things that we were doing that were in the liquids that didn't play nice when they were put into more of a soluble form. And I guess back then I was more interested in trying to get everything into one. And so I haven't really revisited that, but it's actually a pretty simple prospect. It's not all that difficult to do. And a good majority of the material that we keep in stock currently could be put together and sold that way. But I haven't thought too much on it. And that is possible. Green regards that fall. Super green the past 5 months. Do we need to burn it? San Antonio Tom, that's going to die on its own. It'll die. Q4 for broad spectrum. Q4 works great. It's lovely stuff. One thing that a lot of the guys are going to be using here coming up is Triad TZ, which is a material that we actually provide. That's a chemical that we stock and sell. It's basically T-zone. So that stuff works really well as well. Live premiere tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm just going to get on there and sit and chat with you guys. I'm not going to go live. So that'll be fine. Chris, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it does work well, but honestly, the 402 kind of has everything in it, and you don't have to do quite as much. You can just put it in your water and go for it. If I kill weeds with gas, what will it do to the soil? It'll stay in there, and you basically have sort of an abiotic death to that area. It'll eventually go away, but that's just something you'd have to deal with if you did it. It could be really bad. Can you mix T-zone with biostoma? I'm not exactly sure what biostoma. Oh, you must mean biostims. Yeah, you can do that. No problem. A lot of clay 4 inches down. How best to tackle that? So if you took a look at the test that we did in the last video that I showed, as far as the aerate goes, by doing mechanical aeration and adding aerate with it, you have a great impact on the subsoil. So what I would do is try to get a mechanical aerator as deep as you can get across it and then spray it with aerate, and you'll have a major impact on it. Jacob, one of the reasons is this. A lot of the times the app rates are what you're dealing with. So part of the reason that I like having the biostimulants, the way that we sell them, is they have massive coverage. A single gallon of RGS can do an acre. Depending on what your app rate is, you're going to be anywhere between a half an acre and a full acre. And if you're trying to, get that better value, it's harder to do with a granular shipping it across the country, because once you get above 45 pounds and into that 50-pound zone, the shipping rates go through the roof. So there's sort of some key points that you have to watch out for when you're sending single stuff. Now, the other thing is this. I can ship a tote of product, which can do up to 35 acres, and that takes up the same space and more weight than a ton of granular, but the shipping rates on those are going to be about the same, so your cost ends up being a lot higher. So that's why, if that makes a difference. Jason, hard or soft? Depends on what's going in it. So that's a hard question. It's a hard question for me to answer. I asked for Peters Triple 20 to apply on my lawn, and they sent me some other water soluble called Miller's. Ever heard of it? Similar product. Can I use it on my lawn? It might be the same thing, Peters. Millers, that material. Peters also was making Miracle Grow for a long time for Scott's Miracle Grow company, packaging that and sending it out. So that's all kind of in that same water soluble material. So Shane, rotary or reel, for the longest time I have been more of a reel person, but now I'm thinking that with the size of the lawn, I'm probably going to go to rotary only this year. Kieran, that's funny. Let's see. So Jacob, again, that's kind of an interesting comment. A lot of the time what you're dealing with is how much active material is in each item that's going out there more than anything else. So you kind of have to look at it from an active side of things. Water soluble powders are great, but a lot of people end up not quite understanding how much and how often and how when, and it just takes it's a little more of a learning curve because people aren't used to it. But I think water solubles are fine. I don't have anything against them. If that's what you choose to do, do it. No skin off my nose. I think everybody's responsible for their own journey. Saw Pete Denny put green pop on his shrubs last spring and give him a jump start. Totally works great. Lawn to learn, favorite height of cut. Even with a rotary this year, I'm probably going to keep it fairly low. I absolutely loved the way my lawn looked at 1/2 inch. So I think that this year is probably going to be more like 1.5 inches, maybe 2 is what it's going to be. Thoughts on all the lawn care YouTubers coming out with their own products? I think that for every single person who is out there and working on the lawn and promoting and doing certain practices, I think it's a logical next step to get involved with a company to help them develop their own brand and take it further. Everybody connects with their audience in a different way, and everybody forms sort of relationships that way. And I think that it's a natural evolution. I don't see anything wrong with it. And you'll find that a lot of people are working together on those, which is pretty cool. And it's just a way to sort of share what they've been learning and, get it out to people that support them, which I think is great. So, I think it's pretty awesome, really. Let's see. Cat butt. Yeah, you remember that. Biostim, do you recommend for trees and shrubs? If that's all you have, or biostims for trees and shrubs, you would use RGS would be great for drenching, and you can use microgreen as well. Andy, I think you might be able to in the shoulder seasons, but I don't think it would last very long. Homeowner trying to make their own fertilizer. I don't even think it's worth trying. You can go out and buy single components, right? Like you can go and buy just your nitrogen as ammonium sulfate or as urea or, whatever you can find that's just granular nitrogen. You can go find phosphorus the same way. You can go find your potassium the same way, and you can just apply them. I don't know that you really need to make your own. You can just buy what you need for for what you're looking at. I buy products from the people who have nice lawns. That's why oh boy, I don't want to say that. How do I fix my sand back? Sandbox? Sandback? I don't know what that, we'll come back. Let's see. Jump down the line and short of seeing a new building you are in. Yeah, this is the back. Thoughts on silica? Yes, actually, we have been putting a product out. God damn it! I knew you guys were going to make me say something. We have been putting a material out for the last little bit that has silica in it. I actually think it is wonderful for stress. I don't want to say anything more than that, but that is something that we've been providing to the pro market. So, yeah. GCF help with dog spots? No, kind of yes, kind of no. Water helps the most with dog spots. If you have consistent dog spots, it's really kind of a challenge. You need to rake out the dead stuff. You need to feed it. You need to water it extra heavy. And if it stays open and patchy, I don't know, go buy some turf mint or something and put it down on there. It'll make a big difference. Let's see. Emerald, Zoysia, Empire, Zenith. You know what I actually really like, Ben, and mainly just because of how it looks in Hawaii, is El Toro. I really think that that's pretty fantastic. Uh, does your green pop and RGS work good together? Absolutely, it does. Wonderful. Thoughts on biochar? I actually think biochar is a wonderful item, and it's been used again for an extremely long time. It's nothing new. It's just been very complex to use, and it's easy to overdo. Um, and my first experience with it was a little over a decade ago, where some was put on a customer's lawn down in Florida that one of my licensees was treating. And every time he came out to spray the lawn, that area where they put it around the tree just turned super, super dark. And so we were kind of checking into that back then. But it wasn't, I don't know. It has extreme value. It's just something that lasts a long time. So it's not something you have to do over and over and over again. Last year I burned my lawn, or 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. I don't even know how long it's been. I burned my whole lawn down and put all that ash down into my soil. And, I don't feel like I ever need to do that again. It just works fantastic. Let's see. City backfilled a huge hole with sand. How do I correct? Put some topsoil or peat or something else. Maybe dig some sand out. Get some more soil into that hole, and put some turf over the top of it, or seed it quickly and cover it up, and let it grow down in there. The roots will actually go really deep in that soil with the sand underneath it. Anderson's biochar and Miramichi stuff. There's really only two things I can say about that. Anderson's is a great company. Miramichi is a great company. They make some really cool stuff. They are competitors of mine in the space, and they make really good material. I used to work with Anderson's in Florida. We were actually distributed through them for the golf community. That was, I've done work with them. Miramichi's been around for a little while, and the only thing I can say about this is I believe that Miramichi has incredible products, and they're way overpriced. That's where I want to end it. I think they're great, but they're way overpriced. I think that Anderson's has amazing products. I think that they do a really good job. I think that they're, a very awesome company, but I also think that for the most part, they went after the golf community for so long, and then, trying to transition into the homeowner market and trying to keep the golf mentality. And I think that's a little bit complicated. So that's all. I mean, you're not going to hear me say anything bad about a fertilizer company out there. These are all people in my community. There's people that I know from pretty much every company out there. There's people that I've worked with at trade shows that I've gotten to know over the years, direct competitors that I'm very good friends with. And it's not a problem. It is a large community, and I think it's actually a really good thing to keep it that way. I think that having respect for your competitors is probably one of the best things that you could ever do. And otherwise, you sort of cheapen the whole industry. So I kind of think that's more important. There's relationships that get formed that I think are more important than that. Ghost Pepper, this is 1,000 square foot space. Sprinkler system, yes, there is a sprinkler system going on, and this will have fertigation up here as well. Doc, you're going to want to take a look at that. I don't know that it would grow very well up there. In fact, I think it would probably not grow well at all. So, Cole, can you believe it? It just keeps coming. Have I heard of the products C2O? If that's the stuff that Jeremy was talking about, I actually know the guy who was putting that product together. His name's Doug Dickey. I actually did work with him back in the early 2000s. So I do know that guy as well. Let's see. Kieran, no, I did not. Actually, I'm going to give you guys, for those of you who don't know, I went to school without knowing what I was going to do. I mainly just went through for business, and all I wanted to do was start my own company. That was really all I wanted to do. And it just so happened that I had an epiphany one day, and this is the way it went. Let's keep going. I'm trying to fire these off as fast as I can. Yeah, see, there you go, Cole. Thank you. You should just answer all these questions for you. Lawn community seems to mesh well. Yeah, they do. Smoking, burning means kill it off. Do you have any granular products? I don't. Answer that a little bit worried. Let's see. Getting tired of pacing? I'm not getting tired of pacing. It's actually getting pretty cold in here. So thank you, Andrew. I appreciate that. Again, those questions I cannot answer. Primo, sorry, I can't do that. Yes, old-fashioned. Yes, Weekend Warrior, I have done that, and it is fantastic. And there's a lot of people who do run humic through their fertigation as their base product, and then they put everything else out the rest of the time because you can fill it up one time and let it run all year. So we've also gotten some tips on a company is coming up with some pretty cool stuff for their fertigation tank that I can't wait to see. They've been sending me prototypes, and prototypes I'm pretty excited about, hoping to have one here. Aerate is fine to do early. Go for it. Thank you, MTB. I hope that means mountain bike. Who wants to start a weed control and fert business? Comfort Lawn Care. First of all, check and see what your state's regulations are as far as getting licensing. That's going to be super important to do that. I would recommend you start there with your Department of Agriculture and see what you're going to have to do. In some states, you have to be an apprentice for a little while, if you want to call it that. You have to work on this under somebody with a license for up to 2 years before you can start your own. Anytime that you're putting down anything for money, somebody is going to put their hand in your pocket to take some of it. So you need to find that out first. But otherwise, it is a great business to get into. Let's see. Lewis, yes, I do recommend that. Absolutely. Sorry, Mark. What do we got? I got that today. First treatment of aerated humid. Thank you. Thanks, Ghost Pepper. Do I wish I had centipede? No, I don't. Can I sleep at your house when I promise to cut your grass? That's funny. Wildest business idea that I almost went ahead with: water soluble packs that were in dissolvable packages. I sat on an airplane one time in 2007 or 2008 with a guy who worked for a pharmaceuticals company, and we talked about two things. And if I give away a multi-million-dollar idea, just remember where you heard it first. One of them was we were actually going to compress into pellets, and then I think Miracle Grow came out with that a little bit later. But we were going to do pellets that dissolved that you could drop in and have them sort of go through in a concentrated form, like almost like a gun in a sense, that water would come across and it would meter stuff out. That was one thing, and I think Miracle Grow did that. And the second one was dissolvable Solupacks, where we would put all of the material inside of these dissolvable packs that were in like 2 to 3 pounds, and you just toss them in a spray tank and you could use them that way. But again, what we ran into problems with was that our material was eating through the bags, so it didn't really help. That's why I stopped that one. What else could I tell you? I've had quite a few, including some weed control products that were interesting. Adrian, can't answer that. Best sand for leveling zoysia, usually the cheapest and the thinnest. Hold on, let me keep going back. Man, there's so much on here. In seaweed control, it always depends on the target pest. You got to know what you're going after. For a lot of people who are dealing with, if you're in tall fescue, you have an awful lot of options on what you can apply. And, a combo 3-way is going to take care of most stuff. So, yeah. Yeah, Bob, give it a try. Getting set up in the new space, 2 weeks is what it's looking like. Sprayed, aerate, and detached. Temp was 82. Totally fine. Great. Awesome. 701, that's killer. I love riding. New products, not going to tell you. Video, how to run. Yep, that's right, Doc. Does potassium and aerate help the humic stay in solution longer to get deeper into the soil, such as humic aerating agent transforming? No. So when potassium hydroxide is reacted with linerdite, it is to release the acids up into the solution. And so a good majority of that is not really part of it. It's actually just to release the acids up into the liquid, and that's what that's there for. So not really. It's just to get the acids. Ghost Pepper, my favorite guitar. J180 is probably my favorite guitar. I played a classic one that actually had a single coil across the bridge. It was probably about a 1968 J180 with a mustache pickguard, black Gibson. I think that is probably one of my favorite guitars I've ever played. I am a Gibson guy, but aside from one acoustic, I play a lot of Takaminis. So, Lewis, sorry about that. I love my battery Toro. That thing's awesome. It's fantastic. So, yeah. Dennis, you're right. Okay, good. How much is too much of your one-row prop? Follow the label. Just follow the label. Assume you do a soil test by Texas A&M. Of course, go Aggies. No problem. My dad would totally well, he's not dead, so I can't say he'd roll over in his grave. Have you ever heard of them, small residential? No, I have not heard of a roll aerator. Thoughts regarding silica being used on turf? It works. It's something that you can use very sparingly. You don't need a whole lot of it, and it helps for stress. It really does. Wheat straw grass growing from straw used in fall seeding. How to kill it? Oh, man, you might have to dig that out. 3-way to get rid of broadleaf on my Bermuda. Now left with rye, fescue, and other grassy weeds. What we suggest on the next round. Rye, fescue, and other grassy weeds in there. What would be your best option to knock that out? You would probably want to do a quick label search and see what all you could knock out on one application. That's what I would do. Where does Eddie Van Halen rank on your guitarist Mount Rushmore? I don't want to upset people. I'm not a huge fan of Eddie Van Halen. I'm more of a Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of guy. That's more my style. I like blues, and I love how that you can just riff off of it. Is Alan really your best friend? Alan and I are really, really good friends. We've gotten to know each other really well over the last 3.5, 4 years. We talk on a regular basis, and yes, he is a good friend of mine. And I respect him deeply. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Phillips. I really do. Best pre-2000 USA song to sing at karaoke? Pre-2000. Oh man. You know, the song that I love to sing at karaoke is Hard to Handle by the Black Crowes. That's one of my favorite songs to sing. That's probably the one I would take. I'm a huge Black Crowes fan. I'm influenced by sort of that Southern rock style. We are off in left field. I appreciate it. It's really awesome. And I'm glad. You know what, guys? I really want everybody to just take a moment and think about some of these questions that are coming through. We don't always have to talk about turf. We don't always have to talk about turf. There's plenty of other things happening out there. I love to help as many ways that I can, but if there's other shit, let's talk about other shit because there's so much more fun stuff out there. So that's just something. You're right, John Mayer kills it when he plays with Bled. He is an underrated blues musician for sure. Let's see. Lawn care since I was 7, now I'm 36, and bounce the idea of starting a lawn company. It's fun. It is fun. We'd love to tour Greene County for facilities. You know what? We actually have people coming there all the time. You can swing in. We'd be more than happy to have you come in if you're in the area. Know that right now, everybody, their hair is on fire down there, and it is ridiculous. Just so, don't plan to have the welcome mat rolling out, but, it's a pretty fun place. There's a question right here that says Trump or Biden. I will never talk politics on YouTube. I promise you all that. That's it. Not going to say anything. That is not anything I want to get involved in. How soon do you have to water an area? Okay, it's if you can do it right away, great, but you don't have to. It's going to kind of sit there on the top of the soil, so you need to just know that that's what it's going to take. MTB 701. I sold my Solo. I don't have that anymore, and I am on a Tall Boy carbon, and that's what I ride. It's full XX1. I decked that bad boy out. I'm running 150 on the front, and I pretty much love to just go out and destroy that. The girlfriend's house, we are doing another renovation down there. In fact, I just snapped a bunch of pictures and got measurements to do some rock walls in the front, which we're going to start next week. Yeah, right, Frank. Who needs those? 10 years from now, do you think there will be more warm or cool season grass in the USA? I feel like we're drifting into politics. That's a good question. I'm going to tell you this. We have wild Bermuda growing here in Utah. It has not made it to my elevation, but it has crept up north, even up close to Connor's house. It is in northern Utah, so it's getting in more places. Thank you, Bobby. That's awesome. Ghost Pepper, yes, absolutely. Gary Clark Jr., sure. What's my 440? I don't know what it is anymore. It used to be really fast. It's not anymore. I'm definitely not as fast as I used to be. Yeah, the summer heat might. It just depends on what they used. I still think you're probably going to have to sort of shovel it out. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Yeah. Okay. There are a shitload of you on here tonight. Thanks. I just wanted to pop in and say about. I love this. Okay, are we gonna have to make this a regular Saturday night thing? Is this what we're gonna need to do? It's just like get in and do a hangout and talk about whatever shit comes up. I'm totally good with doing that. I gotta think it could be fun. Look at these questions. That is awesome. If you want to know how tall I am 6'7". So just in case you wanted to know that, I have been skiing with the kids this winter. Absolutely. My UTV is fixed back up, and hopefully the new one's going to get here before too long. John Moreland sounds very familiar. Okay, Frank, I'll tell you what. A couple of times a few years ago, we did some jam sessions and did it live. If you guys ever want to do that again, I'm more than happy to do that. That is fun to do. So, when the band is in here, we will be releasing our album here. It is in the final mastering stage, and I'll share all of that. Grass God, I have not used Mountain View, but I'm sure they're good. So there you go. All right, everybody. Whoever wants to join me tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. here, 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll go through that last air raid video. It's a good summary, not summer. And I think, feel free to pop in and ask questions on the chat on that as well. And we can have some fun. But now the sun is gone. Let's see if I can get that better. There you go. How's that? Oh, these? I got these actually in Panama when I was down there before COVID. That was because I lost a pair of Oakleys while I was surfing. I forgot that they were on my head, and so I bought these at the airport. Okay. Hey, I will make the Rikers Island shirts available on the store before too long. I've had so many people ask about those, and I think they're hilarious. And plus, there is one very specific shirt that will be coming out that is very much specific to me that I think you guys will like. Tomorrow, I'm only going to be going for coffee. So I really, really appreciate it. I really, really appreciate it, everybody. I will talk to you tomorrow. Come and hang out again. Thanks for joining me. Thank you for being part of it. Thank you for the support. I just really appreciate it. You guys rock. I'll talk to y'all soon. Later.